live on Comcast Channel 26, also streamed on Facebook. We've been off for a couple of months, a little bit of a summer hiatus. Glad to be back. Our very special, along with, I'm your host, Ed Nunez, along with our producer, Alden Iwani, our very special guest, former Highland track coach and football coach, and now Highland 2024 Highland Sports Hall of Fame inductee, Coach Gary Sanchez. Coach, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. It was good. We had a great time at the Hall of Fame for Highland.
Coach, I'm going to mention the class you went in with. Last year we had a star-studded class, but I think you graduated from Del Norte, and but you know what? Everybody, I don't think people that don't know that wouldn't know that. Everybody associates you and your father with Highland. I have to remember that. Hey, man, you went to Del Norte, but you got blue and gold all over you, man, all over you. And we had I think one of the things that surprised me about our induction ceremony was the spirit, the Highland spirit. It's still there. We had more people this year for, as far as attendance than we did last year. I think we're building something very special. But the class that you went in with, James Blair from 1958, Dave Brummel, Nicholas Arguez for cross country and track, who you coached, David Padrell still holds the long jump record, man, from 1970. Football, track and field. Mark Kyle for tennis. Carol Neal, who couldn't be there for tennis. Lene Warren Thindaway for track and field in 1980. Brad Winter, 1970, track and field and football. And the service award went to Coach Buddy Robertson, a 1957 graduate of Highland. Coaches Tom Hogue, swimming, a golf championship, a swimming and basketball championship. And then the 1981-82 girls basketball team, our first team coach that was inducted into the Highland Sports Hall of Fame. And then last but certainly not least, you are an inductee along with Coach Tom Hogue. And I've got to ask you this, how did it feel? What did it mean to you? We interviewed you a little bit afterward, but what did it mean? You broke down a little bit, man. You got a little bit emotional. And, it kind of got to me a little bit too. It did, because you've been at Highland a long time. You've been at Highland. You're always going to be defined by Highland. But what did it mean to you, to be inducted 1 year after your dad?
Well, of course, my dad being inducted before me, it could have been, 20 years before I got in, as long as he was there. And it felt so good that I had him in there. And of course, he's well deserved with the other coaches, Gentry and the others. But it was real nice. At first I thought, oh, okay, this is no big deal. But as I got there, and you're seeing all the people, and then knowing that it's my time to go speak, and of course to speak, and of course we were trying to keep it down. I know, right? So I didn't do as much, and I probably didn't thank some people that I needed to, and then of course with you talk about the Highland tradition and things we're trying to do with this. So it felt real good to be there alongside my dad and the rest of them.
You mentioned, I think I got to mention this, Dave Brummel. I'll just mention him. He just had knee replacement surgery 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. And he calls me and he says, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. And if I don't, I have a backup plan. But Coach Brummel, who coached football and baseball at Monsanto, and struck out, what'd you say, 19 at Highland at one time back in the day. That's how much it meant for him to be there. And,
yeah.
He called me on Sunday after the ceremony. He said, hey, was I okay? I didn't go on too long. I said, Coach, it was just an honor to have you there. It really was. But I got to say that to you, Coach, the pride, the pride that, and I looked at some comments online about you when we put your picture out. You're not on social media at all. There were some kids there that said, I became who I was because of Coach Sanchez, whether it be track, cross country, or football, and we'll go through your accolades here in just a little bit. But the affected mentorship you had with so many of these kids, I could tell you still miss that. Once in a while, I'll ask you, hey, man, do you still have a yearning to come back and coach? And I don't think it ever goes away. And especially when you're there where you had so much success, not only winning championships, but winning kids, man. Winning kids and mentoring the kids, and them coming. How many kids came up to you afterward and talked to you and said, "Hey, you had a profound effect on my life"? And there was a bunch of them.
Well, I mean, we go in this when we're young, and I was at UNM and kind of lost. And then my dad said, "Why don't you come in and do some, coaching with me?" And so I moved into the education area of it and started to enjoy it. But that's what I always liked. I was always on the field playing and doing those things, and in the sports that I was at Del Norte and then up at UNM. So it was good, and you start learning, the process of working with kids and so on, and then you want to be this good coach and be, win and so on. But I think after a while, as I got a little older, I knew the real importance. I always did of being there, sports being a part of society, and you learning through that. But then you started creating more relationships with these kids, and you saw things that they needed. One of my professors said, as long as you know what these kids need and want, and you help them, you're going to be successful. And that holds up true a lot. And then you're just trying to help them, mentor them, get them through the good times, and then also, to relax during the good times. And then, when things are hard, you just, like so many coaches and teachers, all right, have just struck a note with certain kids and just help them move forward, and try and do the best. And a lot, they appreciate it. I appreciated my coaches, even though my dad was my mentor and he'd coached me some, Coach Anderson and Sackett, and those guys were great people for me.
People forget Howard Anderson, man. He was there at Del Norte for a long time. I remember Coach Anderson. I read the paper and I read about football scores, and you mentioned there could have been a better mentor than your father. There's not a better one. And I said this to you. Highland was so lucky to have your dad and you for as long as they did. Your dad and then a handoff, right? A long arm of you coming along. I've got to ask you this. And when it came to coaching track, we've got some great pictures in the second half of the show. When it came to the coaching track, we tease you a lot. Highland had some, man. You think of David Potrell, right? Brad Winters, James Blair. If you look at James Blair in 1958, coach, we saw those pictures. That dude, he was the 58 athlete of the year at Highland, which tells you a lot because Highland was the hub back then. What did you get from your dad? Because, I know you played football at Del Norte. You were the quarterback there. Now, as far as track and field and running, what did you take from your father in coaching? Now, you were an assistant coach when I was a senior at Highland. You were an assistant track coach to your dad. That's how far that goes back. But what did you take from your dad as far as coaching the field events, coaching the sprinters, coaching? You used to tell me, hey, I might have been able to throw the shot for your dad or done something if I really looked into it. What did you take as far as techniques, all the things your dad taught you? Because it was a lot.
Well, so he was probably, when he started in '59, it was probably him and another coach, and he didn't do track in college or maybe even high school if they had it, but then he learned it, and I'm sure he wasn't the greatest of readers, but he would read. He would get those articles. He would get what they were loop films. You'd get that film, and it was just a loop, and it would just go over and over.
Oh, man. The loop film.
Yeah, and those were good because it was one right after the other. Same guy, that technique, but it studied that. And then, his running, working with the runners, he was a cross-country coach, so he had that knowledge. He had 3 state titles with that. And then just so much of it was working with kids, and he would talk to them and kind of get them to, just get in their head and get them to believe that they could perform well. They trained and worked on these things. He just had a way of kind of teaching the shot and discus, and then let them go for a while, go to, work with the other kids, and then kind of come back at important times and refine some things, and just do that. I don't think that, the knowledge was like, as it is now, they break down so much, everything seems to be so critical, but it was just a basic foundation. You know what Brad Winters said, right? He said he loved high school. He said the coach, just being out there. He said, because this is where, at that time in the 70s, this is where you learned everything from your high school coaches, from your junior high coaches, all right? And then your high school coaches, because there wasn't, what club did you have? You may have played at Trumbull Park, right?
Whittier, Trumbull, Heights, wherever I could. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but they had some leagues there, some summer.
Yeah, some summer leagues.
Yeah, but I mean, that was about it.
Yeah, no AAU, none.
And there wasn't, all the things that there is now. So it was a basic foundation. Look at, there was this big book of track and field. It was probably one of the greatest ones. It just break everything down. Now, they've readjusted things, and you do some different things. Gone from the regular straddle high jump to the flop, from the glide and the shot put to the circular, shot put motion. Just things like that. But he was just good at that. So I learned a lot from him, and then just. I got a lot from a guy named Mike McKeechin, he really studied it a lot and studied a lot of the European things. And,
interesting.
South Bloc, the Russians and the Soviets and their techniques.
You know what? There's so much. I'm sure you were glued to the Olympics and the track and field. That was actually some of my wife and I's favorite events, was watching the American sprinters. Sha'Carri Richardson, that look back. I've been playing that back over and over. So, but back then, I think it's important to note, there wasn't Google, there wasn't computers. There's the loop, and there's some books, and maybe once in a while you get to see something on Wide World of Sports or CBS Sports Spectacular, but it wasn't the kind of information that you get today. And I got to say, your father, what an extraordinary man. He really was. I told you, just the most gentle man. You already know that. Come in the locker room, ask everybody, hey, do you want to, go out for track? And just the best man, right? You came from your mother, a great lady. You came from some excellent people, man. And you gave back all those years. And that's why I think that speech got to you a little bit, man. It did. It did, because,
when I thank mom and dad, that I had role models like that. And I was really proud and blessed to be at Highland. There's no place else, that I wanted to go. The two athletes at the end was David and Brad. Okay. Everybody else, Mark Kyle was a great, our people. Buddy Robertson, I was so happy he got in, because he's meant so much to APS athletics, Highland. He did so good at UNM. But David and Brad was at that 1970 where Dad had, I think, 3 state titles in a row. They were good. David Padrell, one of the best. He really is one of the best athletes to come from Highland. Now, arguably, with many, that's true. Brad Winter, who was, a championship pole vaulter, all right, had the school record for a long time, 14.8. And I remember him vaulting at that time. He was a wrestler and a football player. Now, I once asked Bill Gentry, Coach Gentry, hey, who is one of your best defensive players? And he named Brad Winter. He goes, that guy as a corner, he would come up and always make that tackle. He was always there. So, that's pretty high honor. So,
yeah,
Mr. Blair, I never saw him, but his record was up on the board. When I took over.
when the records were up there. Yeah, Coach, we're going to take a break, and when we come back in the second half of the show, we'll show these pictures and talk more about your great career at Highland High after these messages on the sports desk.
Okay.
Short break, Coach. He doesn't break. Ash cuts to that one. It's popped up towards left field. And that one is gone. J.J. Utash. J.J. Utash says, we're not done.
Raiders definitely got the pitcher's attention at second. Want to limit that lead for him there. That's hit right back up the box where it came from. It's Drew. The windmill's on. Here comes Schrader in to score the tying run. It's an RBI single for the big designated hitter, Jose Martinez.
There goes Madrid in lane 4. He's got Gomez in lane 3 right behind him. And check out lane 8. Here goes Jaron Johnson from Dulce. Down goes Madrid on the final hurdle. We're going to have to go to the tape. It looks like Johnson.
Here comes a 3-2 pitch from Tatum Widener. Got him! Strikeout number 8 of the day for Widener, and it ends the home half of the 6th. It's 8-3 Eagles.
Final exchange. It's going to come down to the final leg. It's Tatum in lane 3. Keep an eye on lane 7 and Loving pulling ahead. And it looks like Loving.
Line shot. Dives! Can't make the play. In comes Camphis to score the go-ahead run. It's a 2-run double for the hottest Eagle bat in the lineup, Hoffman.
Not a good exchange there for Logan. They dropped the baton. That's your favorite there. Now, let's watch Oak Grove in lane 4. Them and Legacy running side by side, lanes 4 and 5. Legacy in lane 5, Oak Grove in lane 4. It's Legacy pulling ahead over the last 100 meters. And Legacy Academy are your state champions.
Isaac Martinez at the plate, .356 batting average for Los Lunas. Rips that one towards the second baseman. Catch is made. The throw to first base. They get JJ Utash, so it's a double play for Volcano Vista.
This one should be a battle here. Lanes 3, 4, 5, and 6, according to our sheet here, and it is. Oh, that is too close to call.
Ooh, nice cut for Massey. And that is going to be the 3rd home run of the day for Volcano Vista. It's a 2-run bomb for the catcher Noah Massey. And that makes the score 10-0 here in the bottom of the 4th.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walking to the cashier, order up a root beer and a #1. Cover it with green stuff, 1 scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Networks.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Sports Desk. I'm your host, Ed Nunez. Our very special guest today, Highland Sports Hall of Fame inductee for 2024, Coach Gary Sanchez. Coach, we're going to go over some accolades here. Coach cross country, track and field, and football. State championship team in track and field 1988, 89, 91, 2005 through 2009. 56 individual state champions. 16 first place relays, 19 school record holders in track and field. Real quickly, I want to ask you this. Nicholas Arguez was one of our cross country and track, one of our 2024 inductees. Tell us a little bit about him. You coached him. Tell us a little bit about him.
He came to us as a junior from Cibola, and your friend Pat. Okay,
Yeah, very good friend, my childhood friend.
Highland Pius guy in that area. But he was quite talented. He was a soccer player also, but he kind of gave that up and just did the cross country and track. He was second, I believe, twice in cross country. And then I'll tell you, those 2 years he really helped us in track, in the distance. He set a record. He was at the academy meet, a school record in the half mile at 154.6, which broke was it Bill Ayers' record that it was Shane Cleveland's record, and then so he won the half at state, help us win the medley. And then he moved, and this was tough because there wasn't much time. I'd go run the 2 mile. We said, Nick, just get as many points as you can for us. I don't think that he was favored, but he ended up fourth. It just wasn't enough rest time for him, total rest time. So he did it. He had a great career with us, setting a record, winning a state championship, and just being a part of that. Then, of course, moving on to UNM, and I know he went to a few other places, but, he kept running his career and enjoyed it. Now he's out in California working.
He was so happy when we called him. And as you mentioned, his dad, Pat, and I were boyhood friends, man. That was in Pat's wedding, so Pat and I go back a long, long way. I just want to mention our committee real quick, where they did a great job. Marie Smith Everett, Curtis Spencer, Gary Spitzberg, Marlo Maxon, Tim McCorkle, you and I, and we've been together for a while. And, I think people are so understanding now. You have to nominate people to get in. And you know what, Coach? One thing we always say, you'll tell me this. I remember one time you said, you're telling me about these guys in the 50s. I'm just, oh, man. There's so many people that are great. James Blair was one of them. I would have never known about James Blair, and somebody, his daughter nominated him. And so for those listening, go to our hhsalum.org. And, we're not going to be doing anything until next year, but I've already got some, inquiries about next year. One of the things, too, we're going to get some pictures up here of your time at Highland. You want to do those shorts, Coach. There it is. And the socks. People that are watching this are going to get a big kick of this out of this, man. Because it's a throwback, and there's a great article that Richard Stevens wrote. One of them. The late Richard Stevens. And, Richard Stevens could be very sarcastic sometimes. He could be. Great writer, though. I enjoyed reading. I enjoyed, yeah. But you know what, Coach? You work with Coach Roselle, Alfredo Martinez, Judge Chavez. You had a chance to work with Coach Gentry. You wanted to thank your assistants. Here's your chance.
Well, of course, I would have never, nobody ever does it without help. And, the teachers at Highland, the administration, they were all really good. And I'm talking, you go talk to teachers because these kids need it. They get behind and, and they'll let you know, Coach, he's just not doing this, not doing that. So I can talk to that young man. But so the teachers will help. But the assistants, starting off with when I first got the job with Stuart Burgess, John Allison, just moving along to there at the end, I had Stacy Washington, Andy Murray, Alfredo Martinez, Mark Henry. I helped him in football, and then he helped me in track. We won a state title with him. There were just so many more. Some of my ex-athletes. I thank them. They were there. They were so helpful in all that during that time. And you just don't do it without that help. I mean, I will say, in track, like my dad, he kind of knew all the events. I did too, but I still needed that help. And then I could go and just watch them and talk to the coach and have some knowledge about that. But I had some good assistants that were very good. John Stewart, he was at Pius. His boy ran against Bobby Newcomb and beat Bobby in the 400.
What?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Bobby's junior year, his senior year. But he was a great coach. It was good to have those people. They helped make those kids that I'm getting credit for. and they deserve so much of the credit. We don't do it by ourselves.
You know, man, 2005 to 2009, 4 straight championships there. You mentioned David Podrell, Brad Winter, you know, Highland, even when I was there, you know, Vernon Howell, Danny Lamar. They had some burners, man. Barry Hollis. They've had notoriously back in the day, and they've gotten better. You know, that enrollment kind of changed a little bit, and districts changed as far as boundaries. But yeah, I think that's what Coach Robertson was saying when I interviewed him. Highland was like La Cueva back in the day. Remember, Highland, Manal, and Albuquerque High, the only schools. So Highland, if you think about what James Blair said, Coach, they actually had 2 track meets and they split them up. And they went to Fort Sumner and they went to Alamogordo. Coach Hackett split them up and they won both.
Yeah,
think about that.
Oh, I know. Well, they were really good. They weren't as many teams, but they, you know, there was Albuquerque High, and here comes Highland. So, like anything, you know, there's that movement, and people coming from up higher, right? You know, that lived in Albuquerque at that time. So, you got, and then the base, you just got so many people, and Highland became what it was. Now, we named Podrell, who won the 100 and the long jump and so on, and then you start naming Hollis and those guys that were in there. He didn't win the 100, but he was second. And then you go, okay, maybe ran out. Well, now I had Kevin Caldwell, you know, who wins 100 and 200. And we set a 4x1 relay record during that time. I mean, he was fast. Then we have Miller, okay, who's he didn't win the 100, won 200, but just kind of cramped because he was long jumping and doing a lot of things. I'd have a lot of guys doing five events, you know, so that was a lot of stress on them. And then the year I had Rolando Trammell, I had a guy named Chaz Lewis. All right, Rolando was great.
I remember Rolando Trammell. Yeah.
Great hurdler. And I took him out of the 100 because he had a little trouble with the start there, but here he goes and wins the 110s and wins the 300s. Well, behind him, second is Chaz Lewis. Well, this one year, Chaz goes and wins. He goes and wins the 100, and then, you know, they have a system. They would bring all the runners around the curve to that 100 area because you had to get your numbers. Well, Chaz wins the 100. I mean, the 110 hurdles. All right. Then has to go get his number, and he comes right down the center of the track, and he's running against Ronnie Daniels and the rest of the crew, and he wins that 100. You know, and I mean, that was a special time. And, you know, that was an upset, but I mean, he was ready to go. And, you know, we had good speed. Ian Clark was, you know, just a hurdler, but tough runner. And I mean, that one team with him, we just, you know, they were tough. They were strong. I had good throwers and distance.
Got one last question for you. And, you know, we didn't even mention Robert Brown, the spectacular Highland 1979 runner. You know, Robert was amazing. But one last question for you. You're in the New Mexico Sports Hall of Fame along with your dad. And I asked you this when I interviewed, you know, you on Saturday after the ceremony 2 weeks ago. What did it mean for you to be inducted 1 year after your dad in the Highland Sports Hall of Fame, and you're together in the New Mexico Sports Hall of Fame? What did that mean?
Oh, that was the coolest. Of course, he was starting to, I hate to put deteriorate, but he was starting to get a little sicker, you know. And then, of course, he did pass right before, probably 2 weeks before. We had met the jockey. Oh, what was his name? I'm sorry that I forget. We come in for pictures. Mike Smith.
Smith.
Yeah, and we all met, and, you know, Dad really enjoyed because he liked horse racing. And then, you know, Dad passes. I was going to do the speech anyway, and we put his hat there, and it was just, I was so happy that he got in, and I was happy to be in with him. That was really, really nice to be in Mexico Sports Hall of Fame. And you've seen that picture.
I did, of course.
The baton and all, and I really like that. That's up in the house, and I think about that often. You know, just what I think about is the time I spent with him, working and him helping me, and you know, me being his assistant.
Nothing like it. Coach Gary Sanchez, 2024 Highland Sports Hall of Fame inductee, and you know what? I'm proud to say, my very good friend, thanks so much for joining us today on the Sports Desk.
Well, thank you. And we've got a lot of athletes to come. There's many out there. Like you're saying, a lot in the 50s area, because that's when Highland had numerous, titles and a lot of things. And then there's a lot coming in. So I hope these people start getting online and doing that, just registering people and nominating them.
Get them nominated. That's what we got to do. For producer, thanks a lot, Gary. For producer Alden Iwani, I'm Ed Nunez. We'll see you next week on the Sports Desk.